the river's starting to get a bit low, I've been contemplating doing a video on specialist nymphing, which can sometimes work very well in low water. Now, I'm not talking about using a standard fly rod fly line setup, because I've done plenty of that in previous videos. What I'm talking about is more Euro style nymphing using a long soft light rod, no fly line, and a 30-foot tapered mono leader. I think they're called French leaders. Just to avoid any possible confusion or embarrassment my northeast of Scotland accent could cause, let me just repeat that. French leaders, not something else. Now, I'm not saying this is French nymphing, Spanish nymphing, or any other kind of nymphing. It might be, I just don't know. It's just the way I do it on the small streams. In fact, I've never tried this on bigger rivers where it might be a bit more challenging. On the small streams I'm fishing at very close range, and that makes line control much easier, but when we get down to the river you'll see what I mean. But anyway, things have to have names, I suppose, so let's call what I do Arbroath Nymphing and hope I don't get cancelled for cultural misappropriation. Whatever it's called, it catches fish. I'm not even sure this is proper fly fishing, but you can make up your own minds about that. This is not a tutorial, it's just a fun video, my interpretation of how to do this. It might or might not be the best way. Anyway, it's a few years since I tried this, so this could end up as a comedy. I bought this specialist nymphing rod a few years ago. It's a Loomis Nymph 10-foot 2-weight and it's very soft. The soft action and the length are essential to fishing this method. As I said, there's no fly line involved. The cast is made using the weight of the nymphs and the braid indicator. This is the line leader setup. I just fill the reel with backing and attach the specialist 30-foot French leader, which is just 30 feet tapered mono. To that I attach the 3-coloured braid indicator. The black banding breaks up the profile and makes it much easier for my old eyes to see. There are all kinds of indicators out there, and having tried a few, this one works best for me. On the end of the indicator I tie a tippet, the length of which depends upon the depth of the water fished. On our wee local river, 4 or 5 feet's fine. On the end of the tippet I fix a heavy anchor nymph with a 2 or 3mm tungsten bead. This nymph has to be heavy to provide some casting weight and allow the rig to fish properly. I fix another lighter nymph on a dropper a few feet up, but I find most of the fish take the anchor nymph. The anchor nymph bounces along the bottom, and using jig hooks really helps minimise snags. So anyway, that's the setup. Let's go down to the river and give it a try, and hopefully all this will be a bit clearer, and hopefully we might even catch a fish. So here we are, down at a familiar spot. I don't know if you'll see it, but there's 2 deer in the long grass over there. Just as I arrived, they were drinking out of the river. It looks like a female and a calf. Anyway, we're going to have a go in here, fishing with the setup that I mentioned earlier. And I've got a 2.5mm gold head tungsten pheasant tail, about size 12, and a pogo nymph on the dropper. So we'll fish away with that for a while and see what happens. It's about 10ish in the morning. It's fairly warm, not outrageously hot, but fairly warm. No wind, and it's kind of looking quite promising actually, so I may live to regret these words, but let's give it a go. Right, I'm fishing with about 10 feet of leader between the tip ring and the indicator, which with a 10-foot rod gives me around about a 20-foot, depending on the casting angle, about 20 feet of reach. And the idea is you just keep the indicator above the water and keep the anchor nymph bouncing along the bottom. This is a method that works better in faster water. Don't know if you can see that. See, I've just got the indicator hovering above the surface. And if you watch the indicator, it's jumping up and down. And that's the anchor nymph bouncing along the bottom. And that's why it's important to use a jig hook, because the jig hook swims point upwards, and whereas it doesn't eliminate snags, it certainly minimises them. So you just cast it or lob it upstream and just follow it down, always keeping in contact with the nymphs. But honestly, I seldom fish with much more line than that out. And it allows me to keep close control of what's happening and keep in touch all the time. And just watch, just keep a lookout for any strange movement of the indicator, and often you actually feel the take. Try to keep the indicator off the water, you don't want that on the water. Just above the surface. Just keep working upstream, taking a step every few casts, fanning the casts out and searching out any likely looking water. Well, once again it looks like this spot is going to fail me, which is curious. I've hardly had any fish out of this pool or run this year. Right, I'll have a quick shot in here, although the water might not be fast enough. Oh, almost fell in there. As you can see, I'm not casting as such. I'm either just rolling it out, or when I do a back cast, I'll wait until I feel the weight of the nymph and the indicator jerking behind me, and then do the forward cast after that. Got to be careful, because you can get into some unholy tangles if you try to do it too quickly. But you might be able to see now why you need the long rod. It just gives you extra reach and a lot more control. And the softness of the rod makes it much easier to load. It makes the casting much easier. Right, I'm right up at the head of the pool now in the really rapid water. Whoa! A fish at last. That was in the really rapid water. Yeah, just a wee wild brown trout. There you go. Yeah, that was in that really fast water, which I don't believe you could really fish with a conventional nymphing technique. Well, not very effectively anyway. Yeah, the fish seem to be in the faster water. There's some much faster water downstream of here. Whether I'll be able to get down to it, I don't know, but we'll give it a go. Right, that was a bit of a challenge getting down here. The glare on the water is making sighting the indicator really quite difficult. The weight in here is treacherous. Well, that's been a lot of effort so far for one small fish. Almost killed myself getting up and down these banks. It's not been a great advert for Arbroath Nymphing, not so far anyway. Perhaps it's time to execute Plan B. Well, I'm afraid Plan B failed. The plan had been to come back out in the evening, but unfortunately when the evening arrived so did the rain, and it was really quite unpleasant. So I just scrubbed around that. So anyway, I'm back out in the river again. So it's the next day and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm back in the same spot I started in yesterday. So we'll give it a go and see what happens, see how it goes. So same setup as yesterday. Flicking the nymphs upstream and keeping the indicator above the water. And just watching or feeling for takes, because often you do feel the takes. Very often, in fact. Because you're in touch with your nymphs all the time. And again, if you can see my indicator there, see how it's bouncing around? That's the nymphs bouncing along the bottom. About 10 feet of line out, leader, the French leader, about 10 feet of the French leader out, beyond the rod tip. To the indicator, and then about another 4 or 5 feet of tippet with the 2 nymphs on it. So I'm fishing between 10 and 20 feet in front of me most of the time, depending on the curvature of the line as it goes into the water, basically, which is governed by the angle of the rod. And just keep in touch with it all the time, follow it down. So a wee touch there. When you haven't fished like this, using this method for a few years, like I haven't, it takes a wee while to get back into the rhythm of it. But once you get the rhythm going, you can cover a surprising amount of water really quickly. And of course, because you've got no fly line, you've got far fewer problems with disturbance and drag. When the sun's shining like this, it makes the whole sighting process much, much easier. You don't get so much glare on the water. You can see the indicator far easier, far more clearly. You can see the occasional fly hatching, but no fish rising. Oh, now that fish was lying right on the other side of that big stone out there. And it's taken the dropper nymph, which is a sort of a nondescript black thing. Just a wee wild trout. Yeah, that was right back. You see where I'm pointing to that rock there? It was right on the other side of that rock. So once again, the fish are in the fast water. Let's see if there's any more fish lying up there. Okay, we'll see if we can find some more fast water further up. I'll have a go in here though. I think the water's probably just a tad on the slow side. The water starts to warm up. The fish do tend to move into the fast water. It's probably got higher oxygen content or something. It might be a bit cooler, I don't know. But earlier in the season, this part of the pool here was the place where all the fish were, but they're don't seem to be here now. Another advantage of fishing in the fast water, for the angler's point of view, is, sorry if I'm being a bit hesitant here, I'm concentrating on not falling in. Amusing as that would probably be for you. Yeah, for the angler's point of view, with the nymphs moving fast, the fish don't get the same opportunity to examine it. So they've either got to take it or not, and there's a fish. Again, that was in the fast water just around the corner. Just a wee thing. On the black nondescript yet again. Tiny wee fish this time. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere surveys had been done on the types of food trout had been eating subsurface, and the vast majority of it was black nondescript. So it's probably a good idea to have something black on your your cast every time you're fishing. Certainly when I was a boy fishing here, it was usually a 2-fly cast, and one of the flies was always a black spider with silver rib on it, which I believe is called a Williams favourite. But to me, it's just a silver ribbed black spider. And I probably took at least half my fish on that. Right, let's try over there. Another thing I like to do with my nymphs is turn a CDC feather on them, because I think that gives them a bit more movement in the water. Even if it makes no difference to the fish, it makes me more confident in fishing them, and that's really half the battle. But I think with fly fishing generally, that's half the battle, being confident in what you're doing. But then, again, that raises the question, is what I'm doing at the moment fly fishing? Well, there are countless arguments about that. But I would say no. For me, I would say no, it's not fly fishing. This is far more akin to bait fishing with flies. Upstream worming with flies. And to me, my definition of fly fishing is fishing that involves fly casting, and I'm not fly casting at the moment. I'm just lobbing heavy nymphs out. Now, having said all that, I'm not criticising it, because what would be the point of criticising it and then doing it? Any legal method of fishing is valid, and this is just as valid as any other. But for me personally, it's not fly fishing. But others may argue. What do you think? Now, I'm picking up a fair bit of weed on the nymphs. I've got to continually check them, and that's a sign that the river's probably needing another flush out. It's really dropping rapidly now. The farmers, I just saw the first irrigation pump running on my way here, between the village and here. It's about 2 miles drive, and it looks like the farmers have got a pump running on the upper stretch I sometimes fish in video, which is a bit of a bummer. And it's just a grass field with cows in it he seems to be irrigating, so I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you, because there was a fair bit of rain last night and the ground's quite wet, so I don't know why he has to be irrigating, or they have to be irrigating, but that's certainly the first one I've seen this year. So I hope we get some rain soon. This is a really massive potato growing area here. So once the tatties start sprouting and growing seriously, that's when the serious irrigation starts. Because apparently it vastly improves crop yields. So while I'd rather they didn't do it, I can certainly understand why they do. Actually feels like it's going to rain. At the moment it's kind of got that thundery feel to it. Now the fish are not exactly giving themselves up. Oh, and another tiddler to the black nondescript. Right, try this faster water. Oh, another take there, I think. That sky is looking really threatening, and it's getting awfully dark. I actually just had another fish there, and on checking, I noticed my GoPro had crashed, just locked up completely. So I had to take the battery out to reset it. So I missed all that footage of that last fish, but it was just another wee one. The GoPros are a bit prone to that, to be honest with you, especially if the earlier ones were absolutely dreadful. This is a GoPro Hero 7 that isn't quite so bad. In fact, that's the first time I've had a serious crash with it. That could have been the fish of a lifetime. But probably not. Snagged up there, but it came out. Well, I hope I get a fish in here, because it was almost a suicide mission trying to get down here. And one of the advantages, of course, of fishing a short sleeve t-shirt is you get your entire arm stung with nettles. Sometimes I think it'd be easier just visiting one of the local trout fisheries with manicured banks. But having said all that, it does look like a good run. Especially the water up at the top, where it's really fast. Which I will just move up to now, because I've got a feeling I'm about to end up tangled up in these trees over there. And the footing is not especially stable. Oh, that was a knock straight away. There we go. Just another wee one. And that was on the pheasant tail, the weighted pheasant tail. But my goodness, they're small. They are small, small, small. Oh, we've got a family of mallards there. I don't know if you can see that. There's the duck, and she's got the ducklings waddling up behind her. Panic mode. Oh, it's the broken wing technique. You're fooling no one, madam. All you're doing is ruining my fishing for the next pool. I think mallards have got something against me. Well, I might as well have a cast in here, although I think there's very little chance of these ducks just going through. You never know. Now I wonder what the chances are for getting a cast in here without getting into these trees. Getting a bit closer. This is the advantage of chest waders. I'm actually sitting in the water. Of course, these ducks have just been through this pool, but might as well try it anyway. Well, nothing in that really nice pool down there after the mallards had been through it. We'll give this one a go. Oh my goodness me. That was on and off. There we go. It's a slightly better one, I think. Again, right up in the very fastest water. Yeah, it's a nice fish. And it's away. Yeah, it was a better one. Oh, I've had another one there and it's gone as well. It's funny how they just come on like that. So there you have it, Arbroath Nymphing. And that's definitely what I'm going to call it from now on, because it's got a real ring to it. So I'm going to close the video there, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and got a good laugh if nothing else. and hopefully we'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. Thanks for watching, and bye.